Hey everybody, here we are at day +1. Alright, I'm feeling pretty good still. Not really much to talk about today, I guess, but I am going to talk for a while. But it was my first of 2 days of rest. So today and tomorrow, I get to just sit around and rest. But resting, oh, hang on a second, oh, TV. Resting, that's pretty much a joke in itself around this place. I can't tell you how many times today I tried to nap only to be disturbed. We want to take vitals, or somebody who wants to talk to me, my social worker or somebody else, and finally I'm just like, screw it, I'm just gonna be awake all day. you know I remember back in the day when I was a kid, hospitals were a place where you went to go get rest, to heal from what was ailing you or whatever. In fact, they even had quiet zones and stuff like that, around the hospital where you weren't supposed to make a lot of noise and stuff. Well, definitely not anymore. Anyway, today my ANC level is 2122. And I told you yesterday that it'd probably go back up a little bit before going back down, and so it has, because yesterday I believe it was 1450 or something like that. I only had to take the Make Me Pee LASIK yesterday, thank goodness, but I will have to get back on it for the 2 days of Cytoxin coming up on Sunday and Monday. Better get those urinal bottles ready again, my nurses, my nurse friends. I don't know if I mentioned this, but every time I have to pee, I have to use those bottles, urinal bottles. And I know you ladies probably have to do something else or whatever, but they have to measure my fluid output, and keep track of that. Luckily, they don't have to measure my number 2 output, other than asking me if I had a BM today. I did make it to the gym again today. I rode the bike, the incumbent bike, for a mile. And I did 25 curls with the 8-pound hand weights on each hand or arm area, doing these, all the way down, all the way up. And then I do a curl one where you spin it around backwards or whatever. So I was glad I got to do that today. And one thing I forgot to mention was my skin tags yesterday. I got these, and I never had them before. I know it's not a popular subject, but a lot of people do get them and have them. I asked the nurses here how they came about. Am I doing something wrong? Am I not washing my neck enough or whatever? I do scrub my neck. And she said they're pretty much genetic. Well, I never had them before my last BMT back in 2019. So it seems I picked those up from my last donor too. And I noticed the radiation treatment I got is helping get rid of them. They're drying out after the radiation treatment and pretty much just falling off and stuff. So cheers for that. I'm all for that. I also got, and I know another subject, it's kind of not talked about, is moles on my body. I have more moles than I care to talk about, and I don't know if that was genetic or not. And before I came out here this time, I was going to have my doctor freeze a bunch of them, so that they'll freeze them and then they'll fall off a few days later or whatever. But in the end, I was just hoping maybe the radiation will take care of those. Who knows? We'll see. I'll let you know if it does or doesn't. But I don't mind talking to you about my body because it may help you or someone else along the lines, deal with something they're going through that they don't want to talk to anybody about. So another thing that I forgot to mention was that yesterday when Brian with an I was giving Brian with a Y his new cells, I looked down at the IV line and noticed these little kind of like bubbles in there or whatever. And I mentioned something to him, and I was like, "Those aren't air bubbles, are they?" And he was like, so he brought over his phone, with the flashlight, and he put the light right on the line. And it wasn't there at all. In fact, you could actually see the actual cells flowing through the IV line. And they're like little tiny balls or whatever, but those were the cells that were flowing through the line. That was pretty cool, because I'd never seen that before. I didn't see it the first time when I got them. In fact, well, as you remember, the first time back in 2019 when I got my cells, I was in ICU, so I wasn't in the mood for seeing anything. I was like, just give me the cells and get the hell out of my room. I also wanted to make a correction on my Facebook video statement from my last video. about their video policy. The only types of videos Facebook will erase after 30 days are live versions. So if you upload a version, from your home or something like that, that's not going to get erased after 30 days. Only the live versions are erased after 30 days and stuff. So I just wanted to clear that up. I'm also a little bit sorry for my East Coast friends that I make these videos kind of late. It's now 9 here, so it must be about 11 there. And I know it's a little late for y'all, but y'all can just watch them the next day or something. But, and so forth. But, I really don't want to do a video in the middle of the day in case something happens after I'm done making the video. The live video that you're seeing right now is usually the last thing I do before going to bed. So, Saturday's another rest day, followed by Cytoxin Sunday and Monday. Those 2 days are followed by another med treatment on Tuesday, but I don't want to give too much away about that until we get closer to it. I want to leave you wanting more. Kind of like a cliffhanger of sorts, But there is kind of a surprise after that one, too, that I have to tell you about. And we'll get to that when we get to that, okay? Well, that's all for tonight, guys. You guys have yourself a good night and have a great weekend. Doing whatever you do on the weekends. Have a good one and good night.